So some people will say that like humans are all given like a fair chance at the test, but so why would God create someone with like a medical illness, such as schizophrenia or like a disability? Would you still consider this to be a fair opportunity for them? Like, how would you answer that question?
Anyone who is born with a mental illness or any disability is exempt from being punished by God. So people who are born with mental illness or people who are born mentally unable to comprehend things, those people are paradise. Likewise, children who die young. In Islamic theology, this is all the children that die young will enter paradise, as well as people who are unable to comprehend the message of Islam, as well as people that the message of Islam has not reached, meaning there are people living in the Amazonian jungle today that modern civilization has not reached. If the message of Islam does not reach them, they enter paradise. But why do we refer to them as non-Muslims? That's a legal ruling on earth. So if someone dies, we say he's a non-Muslim, we mean he was not ostensibly a Muslim. But we cannot specifically say regarding any individual, unless it states in the Quran, that this person is going to hell. Meaning we cannot have that authority. That's divine authority. On the Day of Judgment, that person will be judged.
I just want to link back to the mental health. If God has created people with mental health, then why are they here in the first place? Like, is it life meant to be a test for God to see where we should be at Judgment Day?
Again, God creating people, giving them life, is a favor conferred upon them. So on the Day of Judgment, when they are entered into paradise, that favor is increased, that they are entered into paradise without any test or trial. So the very favor of life is given to them.
So are you trying to say that us and those people with mental health, that the mental health people get like a free ticket to heaven, whilst we actually have to prove to God our ability to either go to heaven or hell?
The distinction would be this, that a person who is, both of us are given life. The additional thing that we are given is intellect. The additional thing is intellect and free will. So a person born with mental health issues is given the gift of life, but what we are given is the gift of life. We're equal in this regard, but the additional things that we are given is intellect and free will. So because of these additional gifts of intellect and free will, we have to go through a test. But they are not given free will and intellect, therefore they enter paradise.
But we are all the same, no? We are all made the same way according to God.
No, we differ. Meaning every human differs with the... For instance, there's an old woman who... This actually happened. There was an old woman who lived next door to me. She was in her late 90s and she was a Jehovah's Witness. She would preach religion to me every day, but she was unable to comprehend deep theological discussions of this nature. Meaning the fresh minds, university minds that are sitting here can comprehend this discussion. But that 90-year-old woman could not comprehend many of those discussions. She will not be judged by God in the way that we will be judged. We are all different.
But I agree with you in the sense that we all have different personalities, but we're all created the exact same way. So how does that distinguish whether we have access to intellectual or not when all of us are practically equal within society?
Again, saying God created us different does not do away with equality. Those are two different things. We are equal as humans. So the equal rights of one group or another group are not tarnished in any way. What I mean by this is how we are judged by God varies from person to person. This will vary from person to person. Meaning a rich person, Bill Gates, the amount of wealth he has been given, he will be judged differently to the way a beggar on the street is judged, due to the variance in wealth. Likewise, the mind of Einstein will be judged differently to the mind of a person of average intelligence. Likewise, someone who is emotionally has emotional issues will be judged different to someone who has no emotional issues. So in this aspect, the judgment of God varies from person to person. Now, someone may think that's unfair, but in reality, that is fair and also merciful, because a person, when he is judged, that person is judged according to his ability. So that would mean that someone who does not have those abilities is shown mercy. Like the man in the Amazon jungle, who the message of Islam did not reach, he's shown more mercy by entering paradise.
So for me, that this brings me to one question. If that is the case, then why did God create us that way? Like why?
This brings us to going back, meaning to the initial question: why does God do certain acts of creation? Why does this goes into the realm of the divine acts of God? The answer to that would be that, from a Quranic perspective, would be that God is the doer of what He wills. Meaning, this brings me to another point as well, which is how do we define good and bad? How do we define good and evil? Is it determined by the human mind, or is it defined by God Himself? As well as on what basis can we question the actions of God? Is it on human morality, or is it something that supersedes, or something that is above human morality? So when we question the actions of God, on what basis do we question those actions? So when you ask why does God do this, the response would be God is the doer of what He wills.
I was just going to say, you said that people in Amazon forest automatically go to it, they don't hear the message. But from what I've researched, there's evidence saying that there's a hadith by Imam Ahmed that says that they actually get sent to another realm, and a message is sent to them, and they get asked whether they believe in Allah or not. So what do you make of that hadith, or is it because you don't agree with that particular hadith?
The opinion that I mentioned is based on the verse وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا in the Quran. We do not punish وَمَا كُنَّا مُعَذِّبِينَ حَتَّى نَبْعَثَ رَسُولًا until we send a messenger. So based upon that, the scholars mention the broad principle that groups of people are not punished until a messenger is sent to them. But specifically regarding those ahadith, Imam Jalaluddin As-Suyuti compiled those ahadith. He says, with regard to those hadith, when those people will be tested, they then will fall under the category of people to whom a messenger has been sent. So on the Day of Judgment, a test will be made for them, and that test therefore negates the previous. So there are two opinions regarding that.